Have you ever wondered if you're saving enough for your nest egg as you grow older in life? Today, Signe and I are going to talk about the kind of much dreaded word retirement that not everybody is always super happy to think about, or, who cares what we're going to do with ourselves in 30 to 50 years from now. But it's a very important subject. And the sooner we start saving toward our old age, the better off we'll be, so that we're not scrambling and having to make ends meet in odd jobs when we're like 75. So with that, Signe and I are going to talk about some ways we can optimize. And welcome to the Investing Mastermind Podcast. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Signe.
And so with that, Signe, what's on your mind about what you think about when you're saving toward your nest egg?
Right now, I'm a business owner, but when I was an employee in a company, what I was thinking about was I am going to be 70 plus when I retire. And that means that I'm going to be so old that I won't be able to actually enjoy some of the things that I was kind of expecting for when I got older. Like something I would like to do is traveling and things like that, and have the health to actually travel. And when I'm 75, do I have the health to actually go do the things I imagined I would do? And that's why I started thinking about retirement for real and started to prepare better by starting to invest. And the thing is that there might be a lot of people out there that either get retirement from their employer and maybe they save up a little bit themselves. And here in Denmark, it's very normal to have companies pay some money into your retirement fund and then you pay something yourself. But there are ways to optimize, and there are things where you should definitely do that rather than other things. And it's something like that we'll talk about today. I won't necessarily specifically talk about Denmark. I'll use Denmark as an example, but it's definitely something that you can apply and look out for when you look into retirement. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, actually, I'll speak on behalf of the American point of view because that's what I'm familiar with. And when I was younger, I was lucky to have older cousins who told me I should start saving toward retirement. So I was already prepared as soon as I turned 18 to open up my first Roth IRA, which is a tax privileged way of saving up for retirement. So you contribute after tax money. So money that you earned working a job, and you contribute that to either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. But I kind of like the idea of contributing after tax money to a Roth IRA, so I would never have to be taxed again. Unlike with a traditional IRA, you could contribute pre-tax money, so money that hasn't been taxed yet, but then you would be taxed when you're older, like when you start withdrawing from that fund in your retirement age. So I thought I might as well contribute after tax money because I'm in a lower tax bracket. Like as a teenager, when I'm 18 or in my 20s, I might not be earning a lot yet. So I thought that that was a better way to start off. And a Roth IRA has been one of my favorite things ever since. So I'm super into having a Roth IRA. I recommend a lot of people look into either a Roth IRA or traditional IRA to see whatever suits your needs. And I've made several YouTube videos about the differences and the pros and cons of different retirement accounts. So you can check out some of those videos on my YouTube channel. Just look me up, Michelle Markey, if you're interested. And another thing, speaking of what you mentioned, Signe, of your employer providing a retirement account for you, in America, that's often a 401k. And similarly, you have the pre-tax version and the post-tax version. So the post-tax version is kind of like the Roth IRA. Like if you want to have a Roth 401k, you can think of it similarly, like money you contribute that's already been taxed. And you could also contribute to it, not in a Roth way, by contributing pre-tax funds to it. So I know that it can sound a little confusing, but you'll cross some of those bridges. And I'm sure there are human resource personnel available at your company to discuss some of these topics with if you have questions. And I highly recommend people take advantage of what's called an employer match. So let's say you're contributing 3% to your company's 401k. And if your company's willing to contribute a match, like let's say they do 1-for-1, so they'll also contribute 3%, like what you contributed. So that's kind of like free money that you should take advantage of. And it's not always a 1-to-1 match. Like maybe sometimes you'll contribute 6% and they can only contribute half of that, or 3%. So there'll be differences among different companies, but if you have any free money coming to you from your employer, definitely try to take advantage of that and contribute the minimum possible to get that. And you can always max out these accounts. Like you can contribute over $20,000 usually a year to a 401k if you're single, maybe more in different conditions. Like if you're over 55, there's some like catch-up contributions you might be able to make. But yeah, those are some of the main two things. And there's one more that's even better than a Roth IRA that I'll get into later. But I want to give you a chance, Signe, to come back in because I don't want to just be the only one talking about all the fun American retirement accounts.
I want to pause a little bit, but that was a lot. A lot of information in a very short time. So I would like to just dwell a little bit and talk a little bit more about this Roth IRA. We don't have anything like that in Denmark, but if you do have something like that in your country, it is absolutely genius, because what you heard Michelle say is that you pay taxes today instead of paying taxes later. And if you're a young person, that's bonus because you might not pay as much in taxes. If you are like Michelle and I, a little bit older, it's still a very good idea, simply because you will be able to accumulate more money over the years. Your snowball will grow bigger because you take the taxes right away, instead of in retirement, where also potentially you would have to pay more taxes of what you're getting out. Let's say your Roth IRA grew into a huge nest egg, then you would have to pay tax of that. So it's such an amazing idea. If your country have anything like that, do take advantage of it. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that in Denmark.
Oh, man. Yeah. And I mean, also another benefit of the Roth IRA compared to everything else is that you don't get forced to withdraw the funds in it. Like, so when you start being 73 or so, and they're going to move the goalpost because the longer we live, the more that we're sort of expected to kind of work and, you know, probably not retire as early as previous generations did. So let's say you're forced to start taking this money out around 75 from either a traditional IRA, a pre-tax, and a Roth 401k, but not the Roth IRA. So that's very key, is that currently there's no required minimum distribution. And you know what? People like Warren Buffett didn't get some of his mega money until he was way older, because the money that he'd saved up when he was younger compounded tremendously when he was older. So that's when he really made the most of his money, was when he was already in his middle age, if not being really elderly and technically in the retirement age. So if you think about that, if you don't have to be forced to take out your money at age 75 and you can keep compounding it, you will be a multimillionaire into your 80s and 90s. So think about that. If you don't need to use that to live right now, you could be flying private jets in your 80s, and maybe you don't want to wait till your 80s to fly private jets, but it's just an idea of some of the possibilities you could do if you're willing to contribute now to these retirement vehicles.
Yeah, and I remember Matthew Peterson, who we had an interview with some episodes ago. Go listen to it if you haven't already. Fund manager Matthew Peterson. He mentioned that he actually hired his kids for a photo shoot, so they started earning money, and so that he could start a Roth IRA for them. And that's another tip if you live in America or in any other country that has this amazing opportunity. You know, start them young. If it's possible at all, go do it. If you don't live in a country where you can take the opportunity from something like this, you want to look at taxes. That's what we're really talking about here, is how can you optimize taxes the most? And in Denmark, it is the traditional employer paid retirement fund that's the best option, to be honest, in terms of taxes. There is a very popular product that some people use for retirement, and in Danish it's called aktiesparekonto, but it basically means it's a savings account with shares. That's what it's translated to. But what most people forget to think about is that that's taxed with 17% per year, and that will definitely chew up a lot of what you invest in that account. So if you're a day trader or a speculator or someone who often trades and come out with your trades with a gain, that account is great because you get taxed 17% no matter what per year. And as a day trader or a trader in Denmark, usually you would pay 27 to 47% in tax. So that account is great for that. But most people, at least when we talk retirement, would like to invest in something and then set it and forget it. So when you accumulate over the years, you really get that compound effect going. And if your taxes every year are going to chew up 17%, it's going to take up a lot of what you save into that account. So it's something to think about. You know, is it something that's taxed every year, or are you taxed toward the end? And then you can do some projections to actually figure out what would be the best option for me. And if you're not good at math, there are AI that can do it for you. I'm not talking about Chat GPT because that's a horrible calculator. I can tell you that. It just cannot calculate. I've tried and it's like, no, don't do it. But, you know, other machines can do this for you, where you can put in the numbers into the machine and it will calculate it for you. I also usually, when I work with clients, I have some templates and things that they can use so they can project it, and it's much easier that way. But tax is so important, and as well as if there's any fees, it would definitely also be something that I would look into. If there's high annual fees, that's how you need to look at it. How can I optimize and then find the best product for you?
What would you recommend is the best way to treat that kind of account, where if you're going to get taxed at 17% anyway, you know, I know some people might like to trade, but is that also a good idea for people to just try to invest for the long term? Like what you said, set in, forget it.
I would say if you set it and forget it, that type of account is not good, where you're taxed with 17% per year. If you want to set it and forget it, you want to pay tax towards the end. If that's the only option, which it is here, we don't have something where you get taxed right away. We only have you get taxed at the end, and that depends on your gains. What you can do is, again, you can make some calculation and say, okay, how can I optimize this the best so that I get the best returns in the future? But in my opinion, there's, you know, when you go beyond 10 years, 15 years for sure, then that account, it's not a good retirement account. A lot of people here treat it like that. I guess it's been sold as a good retirement account. It really isn't. There are other accounts out there that are better for retirement here in Denmark, where you pay 15%. So yeah, it's all about looking into it and optimizing it. And honestly, there aren't that many products out there. I know it sounds like a lot to having to, you know, look into all of these things, but there aren't a lot of products out there, really. Look into them, look at what are the different taxation rules, look into that, and then choose something that will optimize over the years. Use a retirement calculator.
Yeah. And it sounds like people can reach out to you at investionista.com if they need some help with that. And it sounds
absolutely.
like
I would love to help.
You would be able to guide them. And it's good to know.
Michelle, you were mentioning something, and I'm so curious. Please do share with us. What is it?
Well, the ultimate best taxation optimized account in America is a little known secret called the health savings account. And while you can't contribute as much to the health savings account as you can to a Roth IRA or a 401k, the HSA is way better because it's not taxed when you contribute money to it, and it's not taxed when you take the money out for medical related expenses until you hit retirement age, like I think somewhere in your 60s, maybe 65. And then you can take that out and just pay ordinary income tax when you're at that retirement age. And maybe your taxation rate when you're 65 and above is way lower. So your ordinary income tax rate on what you saved in an HSA could be super low. So it's the best of all worlds because you don't get taxed in many ways when you use this kind of account. So it's actually considered triple tax advantaged. Is you also don't get taxed on any gains in it. So the amazing thing is it's like a wonderful account, especially if you have medical expenses, or if you don't have any, you can just keep investing in an HSA. So it's kind of the best kind of retirement account that people don't really understand because it's sort of a misnomer in health savings account. Like you think it's for savings and you think you can only use it for medical expenses, but it's so much more than just a boring savings account. Like you can actually invest in it. So there are several providers that give you an HSA account. Like for example, Fidelity or your employer might provide an HSA option for you. And I definitely recommend people take advantage of that. Like some people might be wondering, should I do a flexible spending account? And I strongly recommend against the FSA if you don't really need to use as many healthcare expenses, because if you have any money left over in an FSA, you can only carry over a little bit of that, like maybe $550 into the next year. Otherwise, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And that's different from an HSA where all the money you contribute to an HSA, you keep forever unless you spend it or your investment choices don't work out. And if you lose money and then sell shares in that account at a loss, then that's how you might not be able to keep your money forever. But as long as you try to use an HSA wisely, it's one of the best known investment vehicles that I can see as far as optimizing for taxes.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I have actually never heard about it. My husband is American, so of course I know a little bit about what's in the United States. I've never heard about that one, so that's a great tip. Thank you so much, Michelle. And I would also say that as you get older, oftentimes you do get more health issues, right? So you likely will need some of those money. Can you also spend it on expenses, health-related expenses when you get past 65,
yeah
68?
Yeah, you can use it for the rest of your life for health related purposes, and those will be tax free. So in a way, you're actually making money if you have sometimes like health things. Like let's say you just buy contacts, right? Let's say you buy $100 worth of contact lenses, and if you pay with that with normal money, you already taxed like on your normal tax bracket. Like let's say you're in the 24% tax bracket. In theory, for $100 of after-tax money, you spent $24 on that, like in theory, by the time you pay taxes. So imagine by not being taxed on this $100 worth of contact lenses, you kind of got back $24 that you did not pay in taxes. So imagine you can now afford $124 of contact lenses. So isn't that amazing that you kind of have this sort of benefit that people may not realize? But the only caveat that you should keep in mind is that it requires you to have what's called a high deductible health plan. And the amount that you need to make sure it is varies like a little bit from year to year. It gradually goes up. But let's say, for example, a high deductible health plan requires that you have a deductible of $1,500 per year. And that might be you have to spend out of pocket $1,500 on your healthcare expenses before your insurance kicks in. And that's just for normal healthcare expenses. That has nothing to do with what you're actually allowed to contribute to the HSA. So just keep that in mind. You're required to have this plan, but if you're healthy and you don't actually spend any money, you actually can save in a great way and not have to dole out much in healthcare expenses from year to year. So don't think that you actually have to spend $1,500 just to have this HSA. You might not have any healthcare expenses whatsoever. And then as long as you have that health insurance plan, you can contribute the full amount based on your age or your family. So if you're a young person and single, you might have the ability to contribute, I think, $3,650. It might not be exact, like I might not be remembering that entirely, but let's say you have a family, I think you might be able to contribute something like $7,700 for the whole family to an HSA. So definitely look into that, because it could be really great for saving up for both your health or the health of your family members.
Yeah, that's really an amazing opportunity and not something I've heard about. I remember a few years ago, even the Roth IRA, a lot of people had not heard about that opportunity in the United States or took that opportunity. And I think it's more well known now, or maybe it's just me that's a part of the investing community now, so I know more about it. But I definitely think it's an amazing opportunity, and I really wish that we had something like that here in Denmark. But we get taxed hard on capital gains, and anything with investing is quite highly taxed here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I've heard about similar things with like other European countries, like even some of the yields we're getting on money market funds in America, like almost 5%, and some are more than 5%. You don't really see that in places like Ireland. Like the yields are barely creeping up above 1% to 2%. So in so many ways, if you're American, you are so fortunate to be able to have a lot of money making opportunities in this country. So, we should count our blessings to kind of take advantage in both the savings and tax optimization rules that there are, because they do try to help, a lot of the American people get by, as long as you are not earning so much money. Like at some point you get phased out of Roth IRAs and other retirement vehicles if you earn too much money, but then you have other problems if you're earning too much money. So for most of us, we don't have to worry about if we're earning too much. I think like a lot of us can still benefit from Roth IRAs and the like.
Yeah, and if you're in Europe and want to really optimize, you need to move to Switzerland or Portugal.
Really?
So if you want to invest and want to take advantage of low taxes, that's where you have to go. But I would say Switzerland is expensive to live in, housing and groceries and all of that, where Portugal is much more affordable. It's quite cheap there. So but yeah, that's when you really want to optimize and want to invest. And yeah.
I think I've heard something about some of those, like how a lot of American retirees are moving to Portugal, and maybe it's a little bit placing pressure on some of the local resources. So it's kind of good and bad. Like it's in a way nice if you're in that kind of position to take advantage of some of the low taxes, but then are you contributing back enough to the Portuguese economy so that they don't feel like it's being overrun by foreigners or something? So definitely some pros and cons to all of that, right?
Absolutely. That's a very important point. I did read some articles about that issue earlier this year. All right. So we're coming to an end. I really hope that this was beneficial, and that it was bite sizes. It was easy to understand, because it is so important to think about retirement, because you might not want to stay in your job until you're 75. And that's probably what it's going to be like in a couple of years. Like you say, Michelle, they constantly move the age where you can retire. So make sure to have a plan B. And I hope some of the things we talked about today was food for thought for you.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have questions, like reach out to Signe on our website, or check out my YouTube videos, or, if you just want to chat in general. Like I'm not giving out advice because I'm not a professional in the wealth planning or retirement space, but, as just another human being, feel free to hit me up on Michelle Markey on my Instagram. And, good luck to everybody. We hope that you're well on your way to saving up toward a precious nest egg.
All right. With that, we'll be back on Tuesday.
Till next time.
If you enjoyed the show and found the content informational, we would be super grateful if you would leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you automatically get new episodes in your feed. We publish a new show every Tuesday.
The contents of the Investing Mastermind podcast are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this is investing advice, and if you need help in your personal situation, please consult with a professional.